Hi, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Colin Manson, CEO of Proteus. This is the first Proteus / Tyde podcast, and so I'm with the CEO of Tyde here. Can you introduce yourself, Martyn?
Yes, thank you, Colin. My name's Martyn Cowie and managing partner of Tyde Digital.
So what's the difference between a managing partner and a CEO?
I think scale, to be honest. I think being humble and just understanding where you're starting with. I mean, we started with 2 people, so you're partners in that sense. You can't be CEO of yourself. I mean, a lot of people are in these day and age, but yeah, I think you evolve into the structure that you start to build. I mean, one day we'll probably be CEO, but for just now, scale, I think the space we fit into is it seemed like it was the right fit. There was 2 of us doing it at the start, and we were partners and we were managing stuff, so it just seemed to make sense. So.
I say it laughingly, actually, because I have a job title as CEO, right? And I had a CEO title back in Exodus days, and I took that. But you literally do everything in a startup business, right? And you're, what, 4 years in now?
Just turned 4, so we turned 4 in September, yeah.
We're 7 years in, and come on to this later, actually, I was starting to just get involved in everything, which that's a part of the story, I think, but the job title is nothing really at the start other than a status thing, I think.
I mean, I think I tried to even like downplay. I put my first job title, I put it as like sales director, and then I realised that that's just one thing. You're spinning plates on everything, so it just evolved into what it was. But as you said, it's not the most important thing you have to deal with at the start of a business. But yeah.
But anyway, listen, introduce yourself.
I've been in the Middle East for 12 and a half years, which is madness when you kind of think about it. I think throat's a bit rough from this week. I think as the time of recording, we've just been to ADIPEC, so had this conversation a few times. 12 and a half years in the Middle East. I'm from Aberdeen originally, and I got my start 20 years ago, which is quite incredible also. Like I left school at 16, and very fortunately, for considering I was very unfocused and not 100% sure what I wanted to do at the time, Aberdeen was booming. And I feel very fortunate to be from there, and the opportunities that were available at the time for someone like me, that if I was from anywhere else, I just don't think I would have had, I don't know what I would have ended up doing, to be honest. I saw an ad in the paper. Well, I didn't see an ad. My mum saw an ad in the paper for an office junior. She said, you either getting this job or you're going back to school, but you're not working in a fish and chip shop for the rest of your life. So I
Mr.
did.
Chips.
Yeah, well, sponsors. I did. So I got a job as an office junior at Vetco Grey, and it was filing and photocopy, but honestly, it was the perfect thing for me. It was like, you're going into that environment. Everyone was like 25 years older. Like, you know, we have a laugh quite a lot of time at my first ever pass and how young I looked. I think I looked about 12 years old. But that environment was brilliant. You know, it was, I'm a very practical person. I think if I'd gone down the academic route at a young age, then I would have really struggled. But going into that environment, there was people there with 20, 30 years experience. And I just sponged. I just listened, I asked questions, and started to move through that business. So I did filing and photocopying. I think I was the first person with an iPod in that business, which is pretty cool. Like, the people around me didn't enjoy it that much, but
what year is this? Mid 2000?
2005.
2005. Oof, that was the year we set up Exodus.
Yeah, so it's September 2005, which is just wild.
Exactly the same time we set up Exodus.
Yeah, so I started with that, and at that time it was all files and photocopy. We're going to talk about digital transformation, but it was files and photocopy, and then I built out, moved into documentation control. I did the manufacturing record books for subsidiary systems that they were building at the time, and then from there I moved into, well, that was great because you got exposure to all the different elements of the TNA, the quality control guys, all the inspectors that would come in from DMV, Lloyd's, on this stuff, and you don't really get it at the time, but when you take a step away from it, and you, like, now when I look back, I was like, I had such a huge exposure at such a young age, dealing with people, a really like key part of it, the end point where you're trying to get things out the door. So I had that, and then I moved into project planning, which was brilliant. Yeah, I got the opportunity to go through there.
What were you using? That's just out of interest. Were you
in project planning?
What tool were you using for planning?
So it was Primavera.
P6,
and well, to be honest, again, I tell this story a lot as well. It's like the best. So there's a guy that came across from Norway, a guy called Niels Goldberg, and before I was even allowed to really use the tool, he handed me a stack of sticky labels, and he put a piece of paper with all the start and end dates of a mock project, and he had a conference room, and I had to map out the project on the wall. And I couldn't really understand why I was getting told to do this, and I was like, "This is daft." Like, software's there. But the point was that if you got it wrong halfway through, and that's why I'd map the whole thing out, and then he'd work through it and go, it's wrong here. You had to take every single one down.
Yeah.
And the point that he was making was, if you don't understand the logic and the theory, then you can't use the technology. Yeah. And that stuck with me, because it's like, and the amount of companies, we'll talk about this I'm sure in a bit, but the amount of companies that jump into trying to think technology is going to solve their problem, and people are using tools that they don't really understand what it does.
Rubbish
and
in,
the
rubbish
value
out,
but even just what it's doing, the calculations, the logics that's in it. So that was an unbelievable. And I think I come back to, like, Vetco for me was, when it got bought by GE, was just unbelievable when I think back to it. I was very, very lucky. I had people that had forgotten more about oil and gas than I probably would have ever known at the time. And it's something that when I moved to the Middle East, I actually really struggled with, because you didn't have that people that were there for 20, 30 years.
They never transferred you to the Middle East then?
No, so come to that. So I was in project planning, and then I moved as assistant project management, and then project management. And again, the opportunities were afforded to me just from having great mentors, people that gave me so much of their time.
Who was that then? Who would
so
you
many.
Is there one? Oh no,
there's so many, and in different phases. And I go back to the first boss I had was a lady called Martyn, and at the time, like, I would have, I'm sure, done her nothing, because they're just like sleepy at the wheel, like iPod in, and different generations. And people talk to me now about Gen Zs and all these coming through and how they are, and I'm like, it's the same thing. Like back then, like we were like it's such a different time, and you've come from a different background. But she was brilliant. And then I moved into project planning, and I was around great project managers. There's a guy. So Dennis Mullen was my first PM that I had when I came down, who was just brilliant to help me kind of embed myself into that environment. And then I moved and worked for a guy called Duncan Mustard, who was just tremendous for me. Like, and there was times where I was working on stuff that, it was very like, so we were billing based on earned value.
Okay.
And we had to do weight factors against thousands of lines of activities. And even though he wasn't doing it, he'd sit with me until it was done. So he'd sit there until the job was done. And probably the best piece of advice he gave me at the time was, like, I was looking at drawings, trying to figure stuff out, and he's like, Martyn, it's up at the plant. Go and see it.
Go and look at the roof
on it.
Yeah.
And we talk about that all the time now. So like guys like that, and again, there's so many, I'm doing it a disservice to say, because in all the different functions as well, and I think that was the benefit of that business. The experience I had there was I got exposure to everything, supply chain things, the quality control side, the physical, build and manufacturing piece, and all these people just gave me their time. They didn't have to. But what I'd like to think is that I kind of paid that off by listening and then doing something with it and trying to be productive. And then, I came out here on holiday, actually, and my sister was living out here. I was like, this looks actually quite interesting. Well, I did that. And then when I went back, I kind of was like, personal circumstances happened as well. Like, and I just had this like feeling I just wanted to try something. Like, and then I moved out with ProServe.
That's right, you were with ProServe,
And there was a lot of guys that were ex-Vetco, ex-GE that were there. I got the opportunity, very fortunately, to come out. And I think the best thing that was for me was it was humbling. Like, I definitely, at 23 years old, came out and I thought I was miles better than I was. Like, got full transparency. I thought I was much better at project management and everything. But what I was really good at was that business and that environment, because I'd been there so young and I'd worked my way through it. I knew it inside out. When I came out here, didn't have the support network, didn't know the region, the scales of projects, the complexity of projects were different. Like the values were bigger at GE, but like
different characters as well you're working with, different.
And like the first project I got put on was with, with Petrofac, and they had an expediter in the office, like sitting on the desk. I've never had that before, like on you, different cultures again, and didn't have the same sophistication of softwares and tools. But like, I think more than anything, just like the scale's just different. Like you're working in a region, you're in a completely different environment. So that was a big learning curve to go through that. And then I was there 3.5 years, and then I worked for a company called Action International. And to be honest, it was
probably when I first met you, Action.
Yeah,
I think it was.
I think it was.
Days,
I think, Action. Other than, honestly, even socially, I don't think we'd met before.
No.
But I went in there, and to be honest, I wasn't sure if that was the right business. But I met the guy that owned it. I wanted to work for him. Again, someone that had built their business. I just, again, going back to that mentor thing, I thought that was like a huge opportunity. And it was. And then my business partner that I have, Malik and I have started Tyde together, but I met him at ProServe.
Ah, right. So he was at ProServe. But he was also at...
we worked at ProServe together, and then when I moved to Action, he came across as well.
Ah, yeah, because I remember meeting him in Action, actually.
Yeah. And again, like, you talk about things that are meant to be and how people from completely different backgrounds end up in one place, and then you build this relationship. But again, we've worked together for 12 years since I've been here, which is mad. We've had the business for 4, but and then the stuff that we've gone through, that same thing. So the stuff I got taught in the same respect, like, so Malik comes from a completely different background. He's much more analytical, finance based. And the first thing we did when we got to Action was go into operations, go and see it, feel it. It's the same advice I got, which just added a whole other dimension. And it was again an amazing experience. We got a tremendous opportunity in there, and then that's evolved into starting the business 4 years ago. That was Tyde.
I mean, amazingly, I never knew all that stuff, right? All these times we've gone for a pint together.
Tell the same stories over and over again.
And I've never, but I mean, and a couple of things that are bizarre. Obviously, you started in the industry. I started up Exodus in 2005, September 2005. I came here 13 years ago, not 12 and a half years ago. So we're kind of arrived round about the same time. But at the same time, man, I'm obviously a lot older than you, right? So I'm at the...
You are that, yeah.
I'm at the back end of my career. Yeah. You're at the... back in the middle part of your career, I think you probably
I think so.
You're actually at that age, you know, where I wonder what age people peak at, but you know, because when you're a graduate or a young engineer, you're hard yards, right? You're getting, you know, you've got mentors everywhere, but when you get to your point, you're firing all cylinders at that point, because you've got the industry knowledge, you've got the energy. I mean, I came out here with Exodus, and then we sold the business in 2013, end of 2013, and I had the luxury of not doing much for a couple of years, right? Which was an interesting time, right? And then what did I want to do? I thought, right, I need to go and do something, because I can't retire at this age, right? I couldn't afford it either, which is another story, right? And so I'll need to go and do something else. And my default went back to, I'll go and do Exodus Mark II, right? I'll go and set up Exodus Mark II, which would, if you're following your biblical thing, would be Leviticus, and not one of the most enjoyable reads in the Bible if you're ever going down that route, but that's another story.
Can't say I have.
It's a pretty nasty stuff going on in there, but and I'm not sure it's a good name for a company anyway. But and so on that, you know, this will touch into where we're going to go with this, Martyn. Right, that journey was. In Exodus, we had an internal work management system, right, where we controlled all of our workflows from proposals and projects, and it was designed for Exodus. It was designed for that kind of type of business. And I thought, I need to do this for Exodus Mark II. It needs to be even better this time, because by that time the world had fallen apart, or the oil and gas world had fallen apart. 2015, the oil price crashed, and to be honest, never recovered, right? So I thought at that point, I need to have something super slick, right, to make my business absolutely the most efficient business, so I can make money, right? Because it was hard enough in Exodus days, and the margins had gone at that point, right? So I designed Proteus, you know, this package Proteus that was going to manage my business beautifully. And it's I don't know where the sliding door moment is, but what I do know is I started on the recruitment drive, right? I started talking to people who, ex-Exodus people I would go to. I would speak to people in Wood, Worley, Petrofac, all these companies. And I was kind of saying, look, I'm going again, right? I'm going again with Exodus Mark II. And we've got this software I'd maybe show. I was quite proud of what was spec'd out. And by that time, it was slides, right? It really was just slide packs, right? And they were like, I really missed XBoss, which we called it in Exodus. And I like what you're doing here. I wish we'd something like that in Wood. I wish we'd something like that in Worley. I wish we'd something like that in Petrofac. And I'm kind of thinking, everybody's got something like that. Yeah. And I guess on that journey, Martyn, I thought, maybe there's something in this of building a tech business instead of building a consultancy, because consultancies are, I mean, there's lots of parts of that I really miss, right? Which the people side in particular, right? But it's also a very up and down business, right? It depends on that. So hence off you go, and you just wake up one morning and start to build to set up Proteus, right? And it becomes a tech business. And here we are. I'm 7 years into that now, Martyn, right? And I think if we were sitting here and I was in day zero, and I'd said to you I was setting up a tech business, I would hope you took me outside and gave me a good kicking, because it's been hard work. And I'll touch. But that said and done, we're at a great point in Proteus, which I'll touch on later, because we're in scale mode just now, which is a very different mode to where we were for the last few years. And but look, you set up Tyde, right? Mm-hmm. We both find ourselves in a digital transformation space, right? And I know that could mean all things to all people and different things, right? So we're in the same area, but we do different things, right? Mm-hmm. And so, what is Tyde? I mean, it's probably changed a little bit over the 4 years.
Absolutely,
that's typical startup. So, tell me, what did you start thinking about when you set it up? And then where is it now?
Yeah, so again, I think throughout my career, I've always had this mindset of looking at something and it being a bit better.
Yeah,
always. Like, so whether that was, one of my first jobs was I used to get all the stop cards come to me. Right. And I was like, I can't read the handwriting, you can't do it. So it's like, how do you build an Excel model versus getting all these papers? Like, so, and then how do you kind of see the quantities and everything? Yeah. And that was like 20 years ago. That was the first thing of looking at something. You were doing that, and I'm like, this can't be the best way to do it. Yeah. And that stuck with me. And I used to get involved in like the global planning optimization projects we do. And I've got these, and it's funny because we look at we often go back and look at the PowerPoints and everything. It's my badge from when I started, and it's like, who's this 12-year-old talking about fixing planning bombs and whatnot? It's actually it's ridiculous sort of thing, but like I think they put it in there just for a laugh more than anything, because I was like 4 years later, and then so that was always a thing. And then again, I think then all my experiences kind of got me to this point. It's all the functional experience, to starting it, fan and photocopying, and working through to complex projects, to looking over business units, to then working in global operations, managing services, business development, all aspects. And it kind of got to it. And then Malik and I were working together, and we were afforded an element of autonomy in many ways in terms of what we were doing, which was
that all that cool Tableau stuff you were doing at the time?
Yeah, Malik. Well, that was Malik? A credit. So that the introduction of that to me was actually my old boss, Patrick. He put that into his business. Yeah, that's when I met you. You were doing all that stuff there. You were tracking the business, and it was like a Power BI, but Tableau's the same, isn't it? Yeah. So it was like, how can you use data to make better decisions, right? Fundamentally. But what was really cool about what Action did was they started looking at, they had their own ARM system, and they had an ability to monitor physical asset performance, not just location, but like, are the assets performing as they should? Can you remove people from these environments? Bear in mind, these environments are all located remotely. De-risk downtime, number one. You can demonstrate productivity. So eventually for invoicing, you've got full traceability and all that. You're protecting from, things like fuel going missing and stuff like that. And like all these still practical, but that comes from like IoT monitoring systems that go onto the assets. And then what we started thinking at was like, right, okay, well, how does that apply to, the operational flow of businesses? And the legacy version of it was you'd sit in the boardroom and you'd talk about what you should have done. Or what hadn't happened, or why it hadn't happened, or that number's not right. And it just wasn't sitting well. It was something like that. And it was Malik that really introduced me to Power BI. So from a data visualization perspective, and Tableau was the licenses we had predominantly in Action. But he started looking at it in ProServe, took it across, and then as soon as you showed me that was me down the rabbit hole. That was my world then, because it's like, right, it's not my opinion anymore. It's, right, I want as much information to be at my fingertips to make a better decision, but not just me. It's how can I then make sure my team have the best visibility, or I can add value. So the idea of not waiting until the end of a month to then talk about what you should do, or even the end of week. It's like, what's that early indicator that says we're doing the right things? And then the whole premise, I mean, that's probably, I'm speaking more about where we got to, but like,
but that must have given you the spark to think about.
Just was like penny, like it was just like
we can do this. We can do this.
Well, a massive optimism, like any business. Like you with the software, it's like it says every entrepreneur, business owner.
Can't wait to see your first business plan. How mad was it?
Do you know what? It's funny because it was Tyde Data Solutions, TIDE Data Solutions, and we went around the houses, got feedback, and you look at it and you go, God.
Listen, I'm laughing because we've all been there. Right?
But I think to begin with,
you've got to get going.
You have. And well, I think COVID was an enabler for us, ironically, like for all the bad that it was. Like in that time, we saved money, but more than anything, like the receptiveness to people working on digital platforms like Teams and whatnot. But then also the message around, it's all right. Experience gets you so far, but when something like that happens, that hasn't happened before. You need that information at your fingertips. And also like huge macro things, like everybody's working globally now. So like, you think even the smallest manufacturers are supplying different places. Your competition's not here. Yeah. It's China, it's Europe, it's States, it's Africa. You're like, so it's, again, you can't rest on what worked in the past. Yeah. You have to evolve. And I think that was, you know, another part of it. Like, companies are spending hundreds of thousands of pounds and dollars, whatever, on systems, but they're not maximizing them. They're getting inconsistent utilization in different regions. And all these things came together. And Malik and I just looked at it and we're like, right, we're doing elements of success internally. And we thought, oh, we could do this for other people. That was like why not?
It's easy.
Why not? And it was, and then that was the start. But the premise of the business to begin with was very much the outputs. And actually all we and then it's like, I think one of our biggest strengths is that we're pretty humble. We're our own harshest critic. And actually what we realized was we weren't adding that much value. We were presenting data and it looked a bit nicer. Like, it was
so you were in that Power BI mode in that first year or so.
So our whole premise was we could connect to whichever softwares you had. We'd extract. So we'd do the whole ETL process. We'd extract it. We'd transform the data, and then we present it to you in a way which was visually appealing. Yeah. But equally, it was a long way around telling people what they already knew. Yeah. Right, in a nicer fashion. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, that's great. It's your introduction to the space. You kind of get to feel very fortunate to have worked with the companies that give us the opportunity to start. Forever grateful for that. Like, people give you the opportunities, and we did a bit of everything. And also, it was nice to come away from oil and gas for a bit. I think at the time I was a bit, I don't want to say done with it, but it had been a long slog. Yeah. And it was like you said, the market tanked. So like my experience at that time was, I spent more time trying to get paid, like from EPC contractors than actually
who weren't getting paid either, but they're being so it was a tough time for everybody.
Just like everyone, but like even like from a solutions perspective, we were working on stuff, and you're trying to say, right, here's the best way of doing it, and then you're like, Martyn, I know, but can you do that price? Aye. And you're like, you're looking at a tender which is just tied to a number, and you're like, you're missing the whole point. And so I was kind of a little bit lost in the whole space, but coming away from it, working on these different industries, we did hotels, a theme park, recruitment agency, marketing agency, and then coming back to it, like, we can start to make a difference. So then
you started off there, but then you've pivoted the business, or you've transformed your business, has moved on to a different area now.
So what Tyde, what we do is we work in business transformation, right? So it's not just digital. It's like, so our framework being people, process, technology, data, and then control. Okay. And the reason why, like, so you have to deal with all elements of that. Like, and so the typical one was people, process, technology, and then we were like, okay, well, how do you make sure so it's not just about putting things in place, it's the adoption. But not just the adoption, it's the result. So Malik and I pride ourselves on, we'll work on projects that make a difference. And if we can't demonstrate the difference and the impact it's going to have, we don't do it, because then it's just a nice to have. And you spend hours working on it, and it's not fulfilling for anyone. We don't enjoy it because we're not making a difference. The client doesn't enjoy it because they're paying money and they're not seeing a result. So the business model evolved again. So we have develop, deliver, drive, which is our methodology, our framework. So the 3 phases, and the develop piece at the beginning is we go in and it's deep comprehension of an organization. And that came from, again, sitting on the other side of the table and companies coming in and saying, oh, this is going to be brilliant for you. And they've worked here. And I'm like, you can't say that because you don't understand my business. You don't understand the environment. You don't understand the complexity of my trade licenses, the regions I cover, the assets we have, and really just the environment itself. Every company is unique. It's got its nuances. The softwares we've used before, the journey we had with people utilizing those, and the people part of it is so key. And everybody's journey is different. And it doesn't mean that the solution can't work, but unless you get that foundation piece right, it's very difficult to know for sure that it will be successful and to confirm it. So we had that whole first piece, which is really a diagnostic now, and I'm really proud where it is today. Because to begin with, when you start the business, it sounds great. Sounds great. Oh yeah, Martyn, that's good.
But you got a customer. But I'm going to ask you, then you got a big customer. You got a large customer in Saudi, which I think is important for every company, Martyn. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions on that in a second, because I know in my journey, building a tech, so it's obviously a different business, Proteus, right? But we've got the tech that you could recommend into the right business, right? So that's that world. And a couple of things resonated for me there. That world of, there's no rocket science in Proteus. It's about getting all the data in the right place and very structured for managing a bid. But I can go into a client and everything's done in spreadsheets still. right?
Yeah.
They're pulling a price together in spreadsheets. Their rate cards are in spreadsheets. Their rate cards are out of date. Their costs are out of date, all that kind of stuff. So we'd fix all that piece, right? And then you go to the project. And my mantra, you said something, that's that early warning sign, right?
Yeah.
See, back in Exodus days, and this is the thinking that goes into Proteus. If you overrun a project without seeing it going overrun, and you eventually go back to the client, you've got no chance of getting a variation, right? You're in real trouble at that point.
No
right?
leverage.
But if you get early warning, you've got a chance, because you can go in there and you can talk to the client. Look, this project is so that a lot of that thinking made its way into Proteus, which is, how do we tell the project manager or the engineer or whoever's working on that project that something is wrong with the project, or something has gone wrong, or the budget's about to be blown, or the schedule has gone, or whatever that is, and that. But even then, and I've probably was like you, I'm thinking, who's not going to buy this software? Right? This is just
it's obvious.
It's obvious, right? And of course,
you
then
don't get it.
you go into sell mode, and it's hard, right? Because convincing companies to either stop using the spreadsheets that they're very used to is very difficult. And then you get your first big customer, and that's the important thing for me. Is smaller customers were great, and you start to generate revenue. And I got a customer called Oricon down in Australia, a huge infrastructure company. We're still working with it. Obviously, they're their biggest client. And the magic for me on that was revenue, which is great.
It's always handy.
Which is always handy when you're building a tech business, which is cash hungry.
I did an MBA, I learned that.
Did you? Well done. Page one, book one. And but it does another thing for you as well. It gives you a reference point. You can walk into another big client and you can say, I've got these guys, this is what they're doing.
If you deliver.
Exactly. And that's so I know that big client for you because of revenue, and B, because of that reference point. But you also displaced some companies as well who were the big boys.
I mean,
right?
So just a couple of things you said there about, like, you know, you think it's going to be obvious. Yeah. Like, one of the things I was just like, that was on us. Right. Yeah. So again, we had to be better at explaining it. Yeah. And each time our message gets stronger. Yeah. And to explain it, there's no better way of explaining it by demonstrating it. So to begin with, it is conceptual. It is your opinion. It is your fact. And it's like, why would someone listen to you? Like, that's what you've got to get to. It's not what we did, but it's like, all right, Martyn, it sounds good, but why would I trust you versus someone else? Yeah. And you're like, that's a fair point. Like, you've got to, and and even ones that, you know, you think you're there, and then you think you're winning it, and then all of a sudden it's gone and they've gone somewhere else. And you've got to, what you have to do is just take the personal part of it. And it's like, right, okay, what could we have done better? I know. And then we had to really repivot our whole positioning. And to be honest, like, one of the really key things for us was we won that Scale Up Award last year through EIC, the Westco Award. Yes. That third party validation was huge for us. Yep. Because it's now not just me saying it, it's like you're recognized through peers that's voted for it. And I felt very fortunate to have that. Unfortunately, Malik was in Saudi. He wasn't able to come to that. And was that the event we were last week? Yeah, that was the last year's one. And I went up and I thanked my business partner and forgot to say his name. So I've not heard the end of that. So Malik, thank you for that. Well done. But no, that was huge. But that came off of the back of the project that we won. So we won the project in Neom, directly for them, Port of Neom. And again, so full circle, my old boss at Action was working on projects that started Dubai. Okay. Like the underwater tunnel that takes you to Atlantis. Oh yeah. Like all the water displacement on that was Action. And I was like, he used to show me the videos going over it and then the pictures and stuff. And I was like, that again, I'd love to do that. Yep. Like be somewhere right at the beginning. So when the Neom thing came round, it was just like, this is weird. It's like, it's almost, and literally we started the 6th of September is like a date for me. It's like my first day of work ever was the 6th of September. And then I moved jobs in it. We got on the plane on the 7th of September. So it's weird how these things all kind of come around as well. But that job we were competing against Big Four. Yeah. And it was like, that was incredible, by the way. And it was, but then you have to go through the process and it's like, okay, well, why would we go with Tyde versus Big Four company? Nobody ever get fired for going with the Big Four. Yeah. And it's like, well, what we had to demonstrate was it's not that, it's my team versus their team, or our team versus their team. And we're better because of all of this reasons. And equally, again, at that point, you're saying it. We trusted the methodology. Again, we've gone through it enough times. So all the other work that we've done, and looking at projects that didn't go as well as we'd want them to. Again, our model as well is, so there's two things I can taught that you lose money over. It's your values, and for us, it's our model. Our model's fixed fee.
Right.
We're not time measurable. So like we're accountable.
Yep.
And I think that's really important in the space we work in. And it's same with you guys. Like our job is to deliver. And because we do that deep comprehension piece and the diagnostic, and we've got the tangible results and measures, we can say, right, if we do these things, we will get there.
Yep.
But this is what we need from you as a business to get us there. And that's equally the objectivity that you come in independently, which is why I think we add so much value working in the way we do versus companies that try and do this themselves, or legacy external partners who typically will come in with a preconceived notion of what success looks like.
Aye.
So when we got there, it was again just being humble, and just we go. So we had to really learn about ports and go to town on that, and it's all the prep you do in advance to become expert. And again, our methodology and our frameworks that we've built ourselves over time empower us to do that. And I think we're very fortunate that the people down there are very receptive to us. Yep. We collaborated very well, and we've gone on this journey together. And
you're still with them. You've still got that's still an ongoing project.
Malik, as of the what date? What date?
Probably the 6th of September.
Somewhere it was. So yeah, as of November 25, we're still there. I was literally there. So I was there on Sunday, and then I landed at 11 o'clock at night, emptied a case, packed a case, and I was down to Abu Dhabi for ADIPEC. So the life of a business owner, you're kind of all over the place. And then you go from the absolute remoteness of Neom on the Red Sea, which is like being developed and there's not many people there, to ADIPEC where there's hundreds of thousands of people just going in and out on a daily basis. So let's
talk about ADIPEC just as a segue into it, because we've both gone through that week and we've probably got bags under our eyes here.
Well, this is where the voice is a bit croaky, so add in a bit of character to it.
And I mean, because it's a labour of love for me, ADIPEC, right? And that you think, wow, that is, because it's so busy, right? And there's so many people, but there's so much opportunity there because the whole world is here, right? It feels like that anyway, because so what was your approach to ADIPEC? You don't have a stand there or anything like that, are you?
No, so full transparency, this is probably the least prepared I had been for ADIPEC on the basis that I'd been down there. And I think this year for us has been very delivery focused.
Yep.
Like, so Saudi was huge, it took a lot of focus, energy. We had projects in Saudi, Ras Al Khaimah, UAE, UK. So like you're coordinating, so it's still a relatively small team. There's a lot of activity there. So I think the fortunate thing was my energy shifted from client acquisition to delivery. Our best tool for securing the next job is doing a good job in the last one. And then our clients saying it. And it sounds obvious thing to say, but I genuinely think people overlook that sometimes. And they're always looking new business and like deliver, retain, and grow off of the back of that. And so ADIPEC, admittedly, was relatively outside. Like the way to do ADIPEC is just to have that parent-teacher mentality of here's your slot plan, and have it booked. And I didn't have that, but I think what's great is through the networking I've done over the last few years, working closely with EIC, Ryan and the team there, brilliant support, working closely with SDI, the Scottish Development International team. There's access that they
that's a great little spot. Those two areas right next to each other. It's such a hub of activity, EIC and SDI,
and the fact that they collaborate, I think, is brilliant as well. Because the worst thing would be is if they were doing their own things, and like where do you go and all that stuff. And I think there's such a power to that. And again, still, you have to make out, like, if you could go there and waste a week. But I think luckily it's a great measure, ADIPEC, because you're a year on, you see a progress that people are making. And I think we're very honest about, I am now, and I think I can be more honest. Having the success we've had in the recent times, you can be more honest because you have to, like, to begin with, and yourself, you kind of have to portray that everything's rosy. Like on the outside, inside, you're like, everything's going mental. But on the outside, it's, it's really good. This is what we're doing. And although it is really good, but there's things going on that you can't be as transparent with. But I think in the networking times, and especially with there's some brilliant guys that come to these things that started their own business and have gone on this journey. And then you share that, and then they become much more open with you. And through that, then it's the introductions you get from when you're there. So being there is everything. Like I walked to one of the main halls and it's like hustling, bustling. Bumped into a gentleman that I'd met 3 years ago, and it wasn't the right time. And he just tapped me on the shoulder, said, "Saw your post from last week. Come and see us next week." You're not there, that doesn't happen, right? So there's that benefit. Brilliant. But it's a great event. It's tiring. The extracurricular.
How many nights out did you have then, Martyn?
Don't worry about that. We don't have to.
I saw you on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's all networking.
It's great.
But it is, I think, enjoying it as well and building relationships with people. Like being authentic is really important. I think you can, I genuinely believe that. And I think the credibility you build is that you can do a bit of both.
Yep.
You can be nice person, you can have a laugh, but then you're serious and you get the job done.
I thought foolishly, but it actually turned out to be brilliant, right? We brought our management team out for ADIPEC this year. We actually had a strategy session this week. So doubling up as a strategy session and ADIPEC and the social events. I'm looking forward to this weekend. You know,
it's a lot.
But there's a couple of things in that for me, right? Is that I've got a management team, or we've got a management team, right? Because that is in any, when you're moving out of startup mode, that's one of the key moments when you're not doing everything, or you're not involved in it. And we had a couple of hires this recently, right? We've hired this guy down in Australia, Bronson Fernandez. I mean, there you go. That sounds like a film star straight off, right? And so he came over. He's setting up our sales and he has been for the last 3 months. And it's honestly, what a difference this guy is, Martyn, right? It's like I've been doing most of the sales for the last couple of years, and I find it pretty tough, right? And this guy's he's a machine. He's done it before. Numerous different companies. He's just in a different level. So honestly, I was walking with a spring in my step, just listening to this guy. So we've just signed a deal with him to do it in the UK and in the US as well, really to expand our sales process. And then I managed to hire a guy called Dennis Marshman, who you won't know, but in fact, you probably bumped into him this week at some of those events,
I did
right?
Meet him.
Did you meet? I did. Dennis, Australian lad, right?
Yeah.
So Dennis came from Oricon, right? So he's like a subject matter expert. He's a project manager, so he knows. He's got that brilliant knowledge of why would people benefit from our software, because he's been in that space. He's worked for Worley, he's worked for Oricon, he's worked for various different sort of EPC contractors, and so he knows the problem areas that they have and where we add our value. So for me, from a company point of view of having these incredibly good people around me now so that's made my week. You have no idea how good it's been, and I've enjoyed the social side as well.
Well, that's
and
it.
It's
It's a key thing you say, and the people do make it. And that's an exciting process.
When you get to that point.
Yeah, but even the team I've got, it's great working with them. There's some real talent that they can. And actually, I think the thing for us in the space, it's continuously moving. So we talk about being humble, even with, our objective is to bring people in and know more about these bits that we do.
That's exactly.
But also the people that we've got at the moment and seeing their growth. So Marwan was our first employee, and it's a daunting thing that when you're asking someone to trust you, and then you go through this process. But even you're saying all these things, and you're like, oh God, he's putting his career in our hands. And then you're like, and actually another thing my old boss said to me, he said you got 750 people working for him, and he's like, but it's not just 750 people you're accountable for. It's put a multiplier on 4 of that, because it's their families and everything.
Families, yeah.
And that sticks with you. But then different scale, obviously, completely. But you still thought that on employee 1. And honestly, to the day that he joined, I was sitting going, he's not coming. I'm saying to Malik, he's not coming. And he turned up, I'm like, he's like there. And then we've not been able to get rid of him since. Joking. Bobby Marwan.
But you've hired a few recently as well, eh?
Yeah, we've got a new ops manager started.
What's her name again?
Danishki.
Yeah,
she started.
I met her a couple of times.
She started with us. Again, even stuff like that is an evolution. How you get to a point where you need that.
Yeah.
And it's all the whether it's the key things I'm spending my time on is the client acquisition, obviously delivery and talent acquisition. So everything else is noise. In terms of all the other stuff that goes on, even to coordinating flights and accommodation to get down to Neom, the skill that goes into that, or the marketing, the content that comes through there, all the the business administration that comes with it, licenses, renewals, health insurance, all these things, and the visa process. So you're just spinning plates and everything. So it's a great indication of growth where you've built enough of a need for something like that. So that's cool. So that's an exciting prospect to bring someone else like that in. And then we've got the engineering team as well, the business analyst side of things as well that we're building out. But it's been a hard thing to, that's an interesting point actually. The talent acquisition thing for us has been difficult because it's been difficult, but equally motivating, because if it was easy, I don't think it would suggest we're doing things different.
Yep.
Because these are generic job titles in the space: business analyst, data engineer. So it's hard.
Finding the
and
right
even
person.
like we've got one solution architect, which is essentially a transformation manager, but it is that individual that can take full accountability to, you know, design a solution, protecting it, which is obviously such a key part of this. Is like, because as you work with a customer and show them what's possible, their evolution starts to happen. That idea generation starts to grow as well. Controlling that is so important, because if not, you just continuously work on development. Like you have to get these things done, embed them, and actually see, you know, the results from it. And then the idea is that generate the results. Anything else we work on is paid for. It's not cost then. So it's a value generation activity. So that's, you know, it's a cool indication of that. But, you know, and I spoke to a couple of other companies at ADIPEC that were doing the same thing. They had the week itself, but then because everyone was there, they could do the strategy sessions. So, I mean, that's an exciting prospect as well for us.
I mean, I think that's just next step for you, next round the corner for you, maybe the next ADIPEC and so on. But listen, one thing, we can't not talk about this, because we're both in the same space as this digital world that we live in, right? From different angles, but we both live here, and we'll both be doing something differently in this space. But you can't look at your phone, you can't watch a TV, you can't do anything now without somebody talking about AI, right? It's everywhere, and I think I'm probably a little bit slow to the thing here, because I'm a little bit thinking, I mean, I hardly use ChatGPT, but everybody I know uses it, right? But what the question I've got, what do you see from your client side? Because people's eyes light up when somebody mentions AI. People are interested in AI. That's what it feels like to me. What are you seeing from your clients at the moment, or potential clients when you go in to speak to them?
It's funny, because I think people think that they're interested, but it's more like peer pressure.
Shiny new ball.
Oh, it's just like, you know, I think the element that comes into it is like content. And like, you know, there's a bit of fear mongering. There's like, you know, all right, we have to do it because everyone else is doing it. And
it does feel like that, doesn't it?
But the overwhelming thing that strikes me is that there's just a real lack of understanding as to why, or really what it is, right? So even like, again, that's what I love about what we do, is we get so much insight from all these different perspectives. And like, you just go into humbly, but like, when people talk about AI, I think it's like when people talk about transformation, it's such a broad thing to talk about. Like, unless you're talking about the specific subset of AI that you're looking to focus on, then I think you run the risk of just waffling and just getting lost in something that isn't going to make that big a difference. Now, on the flip side, I think everybody should be focusing on it.
Correct.
But the word is focus. So, but you can't focus on that piece unless you've got a solid foundation. So the space we fill in, I spoke at an AI forum in Oman a couple of years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, about data readiness. Right. And the element of, you know, making sure that, and I don't like the word legacy, but your existing systems are configured in a way. So again, people, process, technology, data, control, all the stuff we talk about, but your operational flows are comprehended, understood, really understood, not process maps you use for ISO that sit in a cupboard and come out and someone comes and audits you on something internally. They're tools. I think that's the biggest thing that people overlook, is using process flows as a practical tool. And overlaying that is then the technology mapping. Like, what are we using to deliver this? Like, if it's multiple configuration of softwares, or like where it's like the parallel element to it is the data mapping. What data are we capturing throughout it? How are we controlling that? How are we making sure the quality of it's protected and it's actually secure and we can actually leverage it? So when we are looking at numbers in the boardroom, no one's sitting going, that's not right. Because we can trace it all the way back to capture. So that's like the foundational aspect of making sure. And when I say data, I don't just mean even like the operational data stuff, like, but you talk about ChatGPT and stuff, like the guidelines that in a specific company that need to set and how they want that to be leveraged in their business. And what you can and can't do is so important. Like, because, you know, if you leave it to individuals to just approach it how they would personally, then you're limited by their understanding of it. Like, do you understand the significance of a prompt and what that's going to do in terms of driving the outcome that or the output you're going to get? And so that's a really important part of like the foundational stuff, like the guidelines that you utilize on. So
if I'm listening to that, Martyn, most of the clients you're speaking to, they want AI, but they're not ready for it. They're not set up for it at this moment in time. Right. But somebody in there has shouted, I want AI.
The board has said, like, what are you doing here?
And I think that from I see exactly the same. And obviously, I'm trying to sell Proteus, right? Now, we're building our own AI tools into Proteus. and very briefly, one of them is, it's not going to happen on day one, but I believe there's, in the not too distant future, you're going to be able to write a whole proposal using AI, as long as your data set is correct. And that's the challenge is getting. So I kind of say to people, companies, starting point, put in Proteus, get your data right, get your workflows all correct, get everything smooth. Then the next thing is then start about AI. Then we'll talk about optimizing your projects and optimizing your proposal flow and all that stuff. But step one is get the data right first, right? And get the structure right of the company. Because I say, everybody's got a little, somebody building something that does some, and it's never going to be enterprise level. It's never going to work at that point. So
without,
but it will be. I think it'll get there, Martyn. I generally think in the next 2 or 3 years' time, the whole workplaces are going to be completely transformed by AI.
I think they have to. It comes back to that. There's all the other macro elements of it. If you're not, your competitors are.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
You're competing with not just people that have a lower cost base because they come from different regions. They're actually embracing technology. But again, all I kind of emphasize is don't skip steps.
Exactly.
So that
exactly.
And I'm not talking about spending much. So like project we just did in Russell Cameron, our closest competition quoted 24 weeks. We did it in 8. We could have done it in 6. Right. It's not. I'm not talking about long-winded. Like it's like focus.
They're probably on T&M.
Probably, but that's the problem, right?
No,
and that is the legacy. But then if you do it internally, you've got all the bureaucracy, you've got all the conflict of interest. It's my opinion. It's this. It's like objectively, how can you confirm that this is exactly how you're operating? And businesses are complex. The regional element to it, the different business units they have, different technologies. Like you can't skip that because then what you empower yourself to do is say, "Is this where we are?" Anyone that comes in with this next gen technology, and it doesn't have to just be, an automation tool, it can be a digital twin or some IoT sensors or whatever the machine learning element is. Okay, you're the experts in AI or that specific technology. You demonstrate to me in my operational flow how that impacts my business. And because you've mapped the data, you can then say, okay, well, if we remove that or we optimize this, we either streamline the way we deliver our products and services. We enhance collaboration between functions and regions and global resources. We enhance the customer experience, which is another piece that people weirdly overlook. It's like, what can you do with this technology that's going to make the customer experience better, which supports the competitive element of the landscape at the minute. And then the last one is, how can we generate a business insight that says in a specific area, not revenue and cost is obviously the outputs, but like if we do this, we're going to either drive that behavior or we're going to have an impact to this number, and that's what we're working towards. And that's like, so any tool. So, and it's a weirdly, I'd sit in the, every year the budgeting come round and they'd be like, Martyn, what's total available market? What assets do you have? What do you need? What's your CapEx plans? And I'm still surprised at how little companies actually have an investment plan against technology. Like, we're going to spend this money on that software. What are we expecting the ROI to be? And there'll be companies doing it. Obviously, I'm not saying that it's not, but and especially in the space that we work in, it's and then they'll get thrown around. They'll say, okay, but $3 million for this. You're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you want it to do? Because even equally, it's like, oh, we'll put an ERP and it'll fix all our problems. It's how it's configured. You can put the same ERP into 10, 50 different companies, and if it's not configured against your processes, against people, and then making sure that it's, again, delivering your specific service offering with your variables, you're not going to get any ROI.
No, you're not. No,
Great. And actually, I think the challenge that you would face with companies is that because they don't do that bit, when time you put Proteus in, the lazy way is to go, the software doesn't work. It's nothing to do with that. Like, if you've got the right software for the right business, it's then how is it configured, how's it set up, and how's it controlled to make sure people are using it effectively.
The lack of digital transformation budget is actually one of the interesting ones for me, because the number of times we don't budget for this, and I'm thinking, in this day and age, why do you not have budget for this?
Where's the opportunity cost?
Why is that not there? And because the opportunity is huge, right? I see it for I know where the savings are. I mean, imagine a world where, I think we've got metrics that tell us that most companies spend about between 3 and 4% of their revenue on bids. Right, that's the kind of typical. And depending on what type of company it is, that can be up a little, down a little bit, right? But take that as an actual number, right? That could be millions a year. Imagine you could half that, which you can with our software, right? So that's an incredible saving you got. Something, the budget, it should be the first thing you do, right? But that's that. Anyway, look, let's move away from business because I think there's let's move away from digital transformation, right? Just to sort of wind up here, and because are we going for a pint or a run?
I think the important thing is to try and do both.
Well, that is. I thought you would say that, right? Yeah. And I use it because we both like a pint, right? And but we also both like a run.
Yeah.
So, and I say that because I've always tried to play. And you start off. I say I'm at the back end of my career, right? And of course I'm at the back end of my fitness world as well, right? Which is very depressing.
I don't know. I've seen you go up against some of these young lads. Well, you've still got it.
I think, but the work I used to keep fit by playing football, by playing squash, and that becomes a challenge, right? Because there is one thing that has become very clear to me: football is a young man's game, right? There is you cannot compete against young people when you get past. For me, it was actually, I probably hung in there until my late 40s, early 50s, but I notice the difference now, man. It's you know, I'm not playing walking football yet, but I'm not far off of it, right? And then you end up, you've just got to go for runs and gyms. So 5K, what's your best time for 5K?
20 and a half. So 20
minutes and a half. 20
minutes and 30 seconds. I've never been able to get below 20. I probably could have when I was 21.
That's 4 minute kilometres.
Yeah, just a little bit more. But that was. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Saudi. There was nothing else to do. That was amazing. I came back in great shape. Yeah, well, but that thing, it's like in the evening, done it, and then came back here.
Betty Ford Clinic.
It's like a real detox. It is. It's like, but I came back. My mum was like, "Oh, you just look so weak behind the eyes." I'm like, "It's funny that." But it was brilliant. I was like, again, I loved it down there. It was a nice change of pace, with how busy it is here. So I do love going there. And Neil,
but it's important, isn't it, Martyn? Right? I think it's important because, we didn't get into talking about this. Maybe we'll do this again. But the stress of running your own business, right? The stress of.
What do you mean?
Well, I found this last year, 7 years, very stressful, right? And even more so than Exodus, when I look back, right? And I think maybe that was partly because I was a little bit younger then. Maybe because the difference of that business, it's up and down, but you're generating revenue very quickly. You've got 4 or 5 years of zero revenue in a tech business, right? Yeah. Now we're at that point where it's all going, but and that's very stressful, right? It's very stressful. So I've found keeping fit or going to the gym or going for a run is actually super important for me to get going in the morning, right? To get up there, get to the gym, and I feel magic when I come out of the gym in the morning, right? I'm ready to get into the office and get started.
You never regret it. You never regret it.
I mean, sometimes it's a fight getting out of the bed at 5 a.m, right? Did it
this morning. It wasn't.
Did you make it this morning?
Yeah, I did.
After a week at ADIPEC.
I know. I had to. But it's that thing. It's like you have to drag yourself out, and it's the easiest thing to kind of almost say, I'm too busy and doing all this stuff, and you go through phases.
Yeah.
But I think the good thing is you just have a check and balance. And to be honest, it's like your social group. Yeah. People keep you in check. Yeah. Like we barely comes, you're like, oh.
and I think we're talking about jobs now already, aren't we?
Yeah. And you need that. You need that someone to give you a bit of a kick up the backside and get going again. So no, 100%. I think it's something that it's obvious when you think it. Eat well, try and sleep, and
who'd have thought, eh? Don't drink alcohol.
But that was the thing. It's like, so we joke about Malik, because I was down there and I'm like, I'm doing a lot of coordination stuff, and I'm like, right, we'll go get lunch, go do this, and then he came back. He goes, I need to go to the hospital. The doctor told me to eat more, sleep better, and drink water. I'm like, who'd have thought? But to your point, stress it comes with it. I think there's two elements you have to think. It's like, it is the gig. Like you've kind of signed up for this. I think for us, the added challenge was, again, that naivety of you're doing something that you've never done before. Yeah. Like, so as much as we got it, like we had no track record, credibility in it. Yeah. So like that whole thing of like, so, and then I think the bit you have to contend with is like the risk of ridicule. Like, because to begin with, it's like, oh, you've started a wee business, have you? And you're doing all this. And then if you're not successful, then what if?
What do you do next?
Yeah. So then you have to go down. You have to contend with that, because you do have to present yourself in a way at the beginning, which is probably above your status. So then you do set yourself up for the fall, but equally you just have to decide whether you care that much about that, and if you've got your pals around you, keep you in check anyway. So that's always a really good thing. And then all the personal stuff you've got going on around it, like, so everyone has their stuff. And I think for me, the one thing that was like imperative to necessity was having Malik as a business partner because I wasn't by myself. Like people will throw the stats at you to say businesses fail in the first 2 years. When I was not in a great place, then he was good, and vice versa. You got each other's back, and obviously your family and everything around you is super important. Like my sister and brother-in-law here were massive support for me, and obviously pals, Dougie and all the guys there. Like, so that's huge as well. But no one really gets, like, no one really feels it because like you have a lot of it in yourself, but on the outside you have to be ice cold. So even at your worst times, personally, you just it's not. But I take a lot of confidence. I mean, obviously guys like yourself have been on the journey, like guys like Rob McKinnon, you've got Brian Knowles there, that are also
successful guys, but good guys.
But even my other friends from other circles, like,
they've all been there. They've all been there.
But that was a huge thing. Coming out here at 23, ask like, how did I end up kind of getting to it? It's like I watched them do it. So my mates have started recruitment businesses. They've been, it's like one of my friends was hugely successful in a cloud services business, and different journey, but he's done it as well. And he's like, they're my mates. Like, and if they can do it, then all the difference was that they focused and worked hard. Like the guys that work in property development, normal people that just had that willingness to take a chance, but also work hard. And equally my old boss, like thinking like, right, so you see the white of the eyes, you see the person, it's just like, right, they become expert in their field. And they apply themselves. And what I had to do was change my behavior. I wasn't going out as much. I had to say no to a lot. My MBA was a huge thing. Joking aside, like regardless whether I academically grew tremendously, like personality wise I did, that ability to remove myself from going out all the time and saying no was a huge thing at like that phase. I don't know when you think about it now, but all these things come together and it's kind of...
And there you are. And and I was reading in the paper this morning that Elon Musk is about to be the world's first trillionaire. Right. So is Martyn Cowie going to be the second trillionaire?
Oh God! I'll take a
million first.
I'll take 10. To be fair, I'll take the million. Yeah, I only need. I just need one. Oh God, it's mad when you see the scale of some of these things. But again, your respect for that is insane. Like, how do people like really get to that level? Like, it's all. I think even like anyone that does a business, anyone that starts a business, I just think, and I actually. When I think back to COVID, I feel really sorry for people that did tremendously well and that killed their business, or like an economic crash or something. All we can do is learn from it. But equally, it's like the next thing is like, well, what do we want to be in the next 5 years? So when we start a business, you've got this vision, but I think the cool
we'll save that for the next one.
All right,
where you're going. Right.
Okay.
We're out of time, but so thanks, Martyn. Thanks for joining us. I've enjoyed the chat. I've learned actually stuff I didn't know about.
We should do this. We should chat more often. We don't get together that much
without beer. It's the first time we've ever done this without alcohol.
It was Colin, right?
It's Colin. So thanks for that, and I'm sure we'll do this again. So I look forward to the next chat.
No, well done, mate. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, bye.